Howdy, everybody, and welcome to another episode of It Came From Facebook. You know, I wouldn't be a good YouTuber if I didn't see a format that was clearly working. And you guys really enjoyed our last CFMoto deep dive on It Came From Facebook. I think it has like 160,000 views, which is insane. So I did like any good YouTuber would do, and I'm repeating the format. We're looking at more CFMotos today, and I have some news for you. These people just don't learn. We have some really weird ones today, some oddball choices. Let's get started with this first one right here. A 2025 CFMoto 675 SS going for $7,900 with 1,252 miles on the clock. Now, one thing you're going to notice in today's video is that nearly all CFMotos that are going up for sale are very recent, very low mileage, and to me, it implies that there is some regret that comes with owning these motorcycles. I have never seen a CFMoto going with like 5 or 10,000 miles, someone being like, oh, I hate to let it go, but it's time for me to move on. It's like people buy these, they put like 1,200 miles on them, and they just dump them. So let's see what this seller has to say. This person says, I'm selling my 2025 CFMoto 675 SS. I'm retiring this coming year and need to get rid of some expenses. So this is definitely the first time I've ever seen a retiree riding a CFMoto. You know, you think of CFMotos and you're like, it's going to be some young broccoli-headed TikTok-addicted freak who's like 22 years old. But this guy out here living the dream, retired on the CFMoto. Says, I'm asking for payoff, nothing more. So definitely has a loan on it. That's not great. Also, this bike MSRP, I think brand new, is $7,999. So he's asking for basically the MSRP of the bike, which is used, and he still has a loan on it, so not great. Bike has had its first maintenance service at the dealership and is still under factory warranty, has a tail tidy, tinted windshield, cell phone mount, and I have a rear seat cowl as well. No issues at all. It's an awesome bike. So the 675 is the newest platform that CFMoto has come out, at least here in the United States. I believe they are launching the 750, the 4-cylinder bike, out in Europe and the Asian markets. And eventually we may see that V4 Superbike come stateside as well. But for now, this is sort of like, I don't want to say their top trim because they have the 800 with the parallel twins, but this 3-cylinder 675 is kind of like one of their more premium offerings. And I didn't publicize this too much on the channel, but I did own one of these for like 2 months because I was going to do a giveaway with it. But then CFMoto did this crazy thing with the bait and switch subscription service. And I thought, you know what? Probably not a good idea to promote CFMoto as a brand on the channel. Just let's kind of get ahead of that scandal. So I ended up selling it. But I did put on about 200 or 300 miles on that 675 SS. So I do have some experience with the bike. And I got to say, you know, I do think it is a Chinese bike. There's some questions about it. There's some still, I think, long-term reliability concerns. But the motor was pretty damn fizzy, I'm not going to lie. It had that kind of old school triple cylinder charm. It steered a little bit slow, but overall, like, it was a decently executed package. Cable throttle, a little last gen feeling with like some weird TFTs and Farkles on it, but overall a decent motorcycle. This one's in very clean condition. This is the black and silver model. They also sell it in a white. I think both of them have this kind of like white seat. Although maybe the white one has the black seat. You definitely want the one with the black seat because this with the gray is not going to age very well over time. Got the silly brake ducts, of course, because it's the CFMoto. Those come standard. He's got the big beefy cell phone mount. And the one point I want to make about these bikes is that, you know, the Chinese manufacturers, CFMoto especially, they're updating their model so frequently that if you get a 2025 model year bike, it's very possible that in 1 to 2 years, they come out with an entirely different motorcycle or an update to the other bike, and then that old bike no longer even has parts for it, anything like that. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're going to go down and buy a CFMoto that's used. Resale value is going to be affected because of that reason, and I've talked about that at length. These bikes are very hard to move at anywhere near their original MSRPs. Moving on. All right, we got a crazy one. An ancient CFMoto, if I've ever seen it, a 2009 CFMoto Fashion for $700. Boys, this costs less than a PS5, I think. I haven't played video games in probably about 20 years or so. I played them as a kid, but I'm pretty sure PS5s are more than $700 now, right? Comment down below if I'm right or wrong. 14,000 miles on this bad boy. Okay, so anything I said earlier where you don't see old ones or high mileage ones has completely gone out the window. Honestly, it's very impressive this thing is still churning miles. Let's take a look at the description. CFMoto 250 Fusion. There is power to the clock. You can jump the ignition and it will crank over, but it will not turn on. The ignition works. I used a multimeter and it's getting correct volts off the key that is broken, but it still turns off and on. So, a bit of a project bike. That's why the price is so low. Someone that knows how to get it going. It ran before just fine, went out one day to turn it on, and would not turn on. Trades, welcome. Now, I'm not really sure what you would trade for this cute little shoe-looking CFMoto. And those of you with a keen eye will note that this is kind of like a CFMoto clone of the Honda Helix. This looks strikingly familiar to a Honda Helix, to those of you who are familiar with that platform. I did a video review on my buddy's Honda Helix. Really cool machine, really interesting history about that motorcycle. Now, do you want to take a gamble on a CFMoto from 2009? That is a 17-year-old Chinese scooter for $700. It's hard to say who would ever want something like that, right? You know, even in China, after the bikes are, I think it's over like 10 years old, they just crush them, dude. They just put them in the trash compactor. They just squish them down to their bare metals, melt them down, and recycle them all over again. Because even out there, they kind of treat these as like one-time use disposable items. You know, like you're meant to use them for maybe 10,000 miles, maybe for 5 to 8 years. You get useful life and service out of the machine. And I do think that Japanese bikes have kind of conditioned us to believe that motorcycles are all supposed to last 20 to 30 years without skipping a beat. But every machine has a useful life, right? Every machine has an intended kind of like life cycle, hours of usage, mileage, whatever it might be. You know, you think of your washing machine, your refrigerator, all this sort of stuff. Like at my place, I've got a 25-year-old Sub-Zero fridge that is just churning along. It's beautiful. You love to see it. But at some point, it will break down, right? And I think you have to think about this machine in the same way. You know, they built a knockoff Honda Helix 17 years ago. They probably didn't anticipate it still being used 17 years later. So that's why you're going to have electrical problems. That's why you're going to have random stuff break down or chip off or not work anymore, because it's just simply past its life cycle. I think Japanese bikes are the anomaly in that a 1990s Honda, if properly cared for, will simply just continue running until the heat death of the universe. Or, you know, other dual sport motorcycles from Japan as well. The air-cooled, really simple stuff just seems to churn on forever. But that's because the Japanese have incredible precision in metallurgy. They have incredible supply chains. They have really good abilities to create things at a very high precision. It's why Lexuses from the 90s, that was like the peak. They just last forever. This thing was never intended for that. So I don't know who would buy this, but just don't. Moving on. Boys, I'm sounding ridiculously old, huh? I'm talking about refrigerator life cycles and Japanese metallurgy. Let's move on to the current age. 2024 CFMoto 450 SS, $5,000 with 1,100 miles. This goes back to what I talked about. Basically, every recent gen CFMoto has like 1,000 miles and they're trying to sell it for MSRP. So the seller says, selling because I don't ride much. Clean title in hand, aftermarket mirrors, frame sliders, winglets, license plate bracket, exhaust, and ECU. Just serviced oil and chain, also replaced battery as well. Have original parts. If the poster's up, it's still for sale. No trades. So the 450 has really become a, like, you know, like plan B for a lot of early gen squids. Guys who want to get started with sport bikes. You know, this is like their clarion call. People are attracted to the CFMoto 450 of a very specific ilk. You know, funny story, the other day I was cruising through an intersection and I saw a 450 SS and the guy was head to toe in gear, which you love to see, and I saw him waddling away and then he slipped the clutch and I saw the bike lurch forward. He looked down, shook his head and kept going, stalled the bike at the intersection. To that lone warrior, if you're watching this video, I saw you, I recognize you, you're doing great, keep it up, don't let it discourage you. But I think these are great entry-level tools, and I think what we see with these bikes are people who get into them, they get excited about riding, and then they're kind of in that mindset of like, I've outgrown it, man, I want more power. But the thing is, you're probably not outgrowing this bike in 1,100 miles. That's just simply not enough time in the saddle to properly kind of get ready to the next thing. Now, this guy says doesn't ride much. So maybe it's a person who tried out motorcycling, gave it a shot, and then was like, you know what? I'm not sure if this is for me. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And that's totally fair too. Now, one thing I want to point out that's pretty cool on the 450 that we actually noticed when we did our review of this motorcycle, very easy to switch into GP shift. So this is the shift linkage right here. This is the rear set, this is the shift lever right here, and this is the linkage that actually connects to the transmission over here. If you move this bolt right over here to this hole, to this thread right over here, you switch the shift pattern. So instead of 1 down, 5 up, you get 1 up, 5 down, and that's better for fun track day and race bike stuff. So I think the CFMoto 450 SS has good intentions. And I'm hearing rumors that KTM is going to come out with an RC 450 that's based on this motorcycle. It's, I think, a reasonably proven platform at this point. I'd still like to see maybe a few more model years put into this thing and kind of see how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if CFMoto comes out with a 500 SS here in a couple years to compete against the new Ninja 500 just to get their branding and nomenclature up to snuff. Because when this came out as a 450 SS, it was against the Ninja 400. So everyone was like, oh my God, it's bigger. It's got a 270 crank, all this stuff. And I did say this in my review of the bike that if it was a little bit lighter and a little bit sharper and it had a Yamaha badge on it, everybody would lose their goddamn minds. I think the fact that it's a CFMoto and it's Chinese and it's a little heavy, I think some people don't treat it with the same respect as it maybe should deserve. Like, it's a really decent little beginner bike. So this guy selling it for $5,000 with 1,100 miles, it's really not the worst deal in the world. You know, brand new, I think these are $49.99, so out the door, probably close to $6,000. So not a terrible thing. He's got a little pipe on it. It doesn't look so bad. It's just a little slip-on. He's done like, some, goofy little squid mods like the mirrors and the tinted windshield and the tail tidy, but nothing crazy, nothing completely absurd or just like, way out of the bounds of what you'd expect for someone to do to these bikes. I think it's fine, I think if you could talk this guy down to like $4,500, you buy this thing, ride it for a year, learn how to ride, do your thing with it. That's really not the worst thing in the world. This is just a side note. This is just a pet peeve of mine. If you own a motorcycle, never put all your keys and rings and all the other stuff on the keychain with your motorcycle key, because that's how you start scratching the casing for the ignition barrel right here. This kind of like cover, and then the triples get all scratched up too, because when you're moving on a bike, that's going to flop around and scratch it up. So that's just a little Yamanoo pro tip. You basically want the motorcycle key by itself with like maybe one little thing on it so you don't lose it, but don't put hard metals on these because it's going to scratch all your stuff up. And that's not nice. All right, it's my favorite part of any giveaway that we do here on Yamanoo. It's when I tell you who won our most recent bike. Jay in Oklahoma took home the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport we recently wrapped up. Here he is enjoying life, looking wonderful with his Italian machine. But fear not, there is another Italian machine up for grabs on yamanoob.co. Click the link down below, become a member today, and get your best chance to win this bike. We've done over 70 giveaway motorcycles. Why not make yourself the next winner? Click that link below, support the show. Now let's get back to it. All right, boys, another ancient CFMoto that we have never seen before. 2007 CFMoto 250T, $1,300. 4,600 miles on it. So looking at this thing, it looks like a Honda Rebel and a BMW Scarver had a baby with a scooter. Just off the jump, I'm seeing the motor and everything else is back here. It's actually not in front of here where you would expect for a motorcycle. It does appear to have two levers on it, so maybe front and rear brake. I don't know if there's a rear brake down here. This doesn't look like a shifter. It's a bit strange. So let's see the description. 4,600 miles on the clock, liquid cooled 250cc motor, electric start, fully automatic transmission. So yeah, no shifter. Starts with zero hesitation and idles well. That's impressive for a near 20-year-old CFMoto. Small scratch on the gas tank, small pieces of fairing are broken. I mean, that's pretty much expected for a 20-year-old beginner Chinese bike. Small piece of fairing are broken off the radiator cover, new carburetor battery, has title. Honestly, I'm really surprised about all this. Like, I would expect this machine to have no title, to not be running, to be abused to death. It appears that somebody has cared and kept for a 20-year-old Chinese scooter cruiser thing. So again, I'm not too familiar with the deep CFMoto lore. I don't know about these 20-year-old, but I didn't even know they made these things, honestly. I thought they kind of came onto the scene about 5 to 6 years ago. But yeah, look at this. This whole assembly here is basically a scooter setup. I mean, this whole rear end is just a scooter. And then it seems like they've kind of bolted on a little baby cruiser front end on it. I guarantee you, if a grown man was standing next to this thing would definitely appear quite pint-sized. It looks pretty small. So perhaps as a training tool for like two-wheeled fun, maybe, like maybe it could work. I see a center stand right here. So again, lending credence to the idea that this was CFMoto probably taking parts bin scooter parts and just creating some sort of cruiser with it. We have a single disc brake up front, very rudimentary instrumentation over here. But analog gauges, right? You love to see it. We love analog gauges here on Yami Noob. And look at that, CFMoto America. I did not know they made these from that long ago. Manufactured by the Chunfeng Holding Group, made in China. Man, that's really crazy. I did not know that they were pumping these out from that long ago. So maybe we'll look back on this as a bit of a museum piece, but this is also, again, look, this is what I was telling you guys about putting the keys on the ignition barrel. You don't want to do that because it's going to scratch it all up right here. You got to keep it just one key clean. Otherwise, it's going to scratch it up. But yeah, who should buy this? $1,300. I mean, there are certainly more effective ways to deploy that kind of money to something of a two-wheeled variety. Again, I just think like some of these, older Chinese bikes are just really hard to find a buyer for, All right, a 2025 CFMoto CLC 450 going for $3,200 or 300 miles. So this was CFMoto cross-platforming their 450 engine into a cruiser a la the Kawasaki Eliminator, the new 500 they're doing, the 450, putting in all that, the Kawasaki's doing. CFMoto's doing the same thing here with the cruiser. So seller says, awesome cruiser bike in great condition, 184 miles on the bike and still under warranty. Selling because I don't ride. So this might be a case of someone picked up a motorcycle and just got scared and decided to quit. We only have one photo that looks like it's in some sort of like home gym or something. We see a sort of like a banner that says Rising, and then there's like a bicycle over here. It's all painted blue. The flooring kind of looks like a gym. I don't know if this is like a heating fan or something, or this looks like a mirror with a plastic case. I don't know. There's a bucket over here, a breaker box. So this is clearly some sort of home gym setup or something like that. I'm not sure why the bike is just tucked away in there. And we only got one photo of it. So not a whole lot of information to work with. With such low mileage on a brand new bike like this, I do kind of think that it is probably someone who got scared or didn't want to ride or just decided it wasn't for them, and just kind of gave it up. Now, $3,200 is a pretty decent price. But this is what I say, where like these bikes take such massive depreciation hits right off the lot. I think he's going to have trouble even selling it for $3,200 because you can just go buy a brand new one for like 45, or 47, whatever these cost. So again, think about that when you get a CFMoto. Just think about that. All right, another 2023 CFMoto 450 SS for $5,000, going for 300 miles. Super low mileage. Like this is basically brand new. It's kind of crazy. So seller says bike is pretty much like new, one or two miles on it. The bike, I do recommend to have maintenance done before riding. It's being parked for a while now. Perhaps English is not their first language. Price is firm, no trades, no lowballing. With 2 to 3K, you can go buy a bike with damage and high mileage with that money. Now, that is not true. You can buy a really nice motorcycle for $2,000 to $3,000 with not a lot of mileage and no damage. I've shown that it can be done right here on Facebook Marketplace on the crazy videos I make here. So that is not true, my friend. So 2023, so this is a now 3 model year old bike with 300 miles. How does this thing have such low mileage after 3 years of manufacturing? Like, who owned this thing and just like literally never rode it? It's kind of confusing to me. Someone would buy this and then just like never ever ride it. Like, is this person the original owner? Do they have the title on it? We don't know. But I do think it's kind of a handsome bike in this like black and red colorway. It looks pretty cool. You put an exhaust on these and they sound pretty cool too. But yeah, this thing appears to be basically bone stock. I'm seeing the stock fender over here, stock mirrors, stock exhaust, which honestly, on a CFMoto, that's more than you can ask for. So again, this is kind of tough for this person to make the case that it's worth $5,000 because brand new, they are, again, about $5,000. And yeah, you could say, oh, yeah, you're going to pay tax, title, license, doc fees, freight, prep, all that other crap that dealers throw at you. But this is 3 years old now. You know, I understand that it's low mileage, it's barely broken in, but it's 3 years old. So other stuff starts to degrade and change over time too. If this bike sat for, I don't know, a year and a half without being turned on, it might need a new battery. It might need its fluids kind of like freshened up a little bit. If you put some gas in it that was not suited for being kept in long-term storage with either a stabilizer, you know, you're not going to have the fluids pumping correctly. So you start to run into other weird issues with bikes that have sat for a long time. Now, I'm not saying it won't run and turn on, but I don't see it even turned on here with the key. So that's not a good sign. So I would say, yeah, it probably needs a new battery. Probably is going to like not run correctly for a bit because you got to flush out the fluids. So old oil as well. So oil change, coolant. So that's the issue. Like sometimes you see a bike with ultra low miles and it's actually a problem. It's not good, especially like this, where it's a 3-year-old bike with only 300 miles. That means on average, it ran 100 miles a year. And in reality, it probably ran for like one 60-mile ride. And then 6 months later, another like 50-mile ride or something like that, you know. So I would be cautious with stuff like this. This is one that it kind of goes in the other end of the spectrum where it's a bit tough to justify because it's so low mileage but kind of old new stock, if that makes sense. Moving on. All right, completely delusional CFMoto 450SS, $7,000 with a really grody looking little slip-on exhaust that's like weird burn titanium all the way through. That looks so trashy. Okay, selling my 2024 CFMoto. Never dropped, hardly ridden. We'll post more details here shortly. Why don't you just do it now? Why are you going through the effort of posting it if you don't have all the details ready? That makes no sense. Just tell us the details. The blue stripe on it now is pink, but I assume it would be simple to turn it back to blue if wanted. The blue stripe on it. What blue stripe? This one in the front? Where are we talking? What does this say? Let me suck your toes. Wow. Wow, I'm kind of speechless at the level of degeneracy there. What the hell is wrong with you? Put that away, dude. Don't be doing that, dude. Man, listen, I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum. I'm not trying to say, you know, you can't enjoy some feet. If you want to enjoy some feet, you go ahead. But don't tell me about it. Don't tell the world about it. What the hell is wrong with you? Put that away. Have some dignity, dude. Have some self-respect. Do not have something like this. You know, this is beyond the pale. This is what I mean, where we need to come back and start shaming people again. Like, if I saw this, I would shame you. I'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Put that away. Like, let me suck your toes? What the hell's wrong with you? That to me tells me the bike should not be owned by anybody. You could almost see the mileage on here if only this fella had bothered to actually put it on there. We see the range, but I can't see the miles. At least the bike is running right here and it's idling. Again, same problem with the keys right here. It's going to scratch it all up. We're just devolving as a society, boys. We're really just falling down the pipe here. $7,000 Chinese bikes. Let me suck your toes. I mean, how far we have fallen, right? We used to be a society. We used to be a people. Now we're at this. All right, last on the show today is a 2022 CFMoto NK300, 3,000 miles with 300 miles on it. What is going on with these? Like, this is a 4-year-old motorcycle with only 300 miles on it. What's happening here? People are just like literally not even riding it. Oh, it doesn't even have 300 miles. The seller says only 160 miles. New battery, oil and filter. Well, that's good. That's what I was concerned about. In mint condition, ready to go, clear title. If it's listed, it's available. Bike is highly discounted. I won't go any lower. So I talked to you guys a lot about looking at the intangibles in a listing. And I do want to point out that we have a nice kept yard, good greenery. We have a car over here and like a recessed carport type of thing. So this is not some crackhead owned CFMoto. This thing is perfectly mint and clean. So that's kind of nice too. So this is a bike from a good home, I think. This is not some, horrifically owned CFMoto from some crack den somewhere that's been slathered with Temu parts. This thing looks pretty much brand new, 160 miles. And again, I already said that he was able to quell some of my issues. New battery and oil and filter. That's typically what goes wrong if you let a bike sit for too long without moving it a little bit. 160 miles, brand spanking new. Is $3,000 worth it? It's 4-year-old stock. If you try to go buy one of these brand new, I think they're like $3,500, $4,000, something like that. So it's honestly not the worst deal in the world. My issue, though, is it is still a very anemic Chinese single-cylinder little baby sport bike thing. This thing really would serve someone for like 6 months to like learn and have some fun. And then you're going to have the same problem this guy's having where it's like, damn, I can't sell this thing, you know. If you want to just keep it as like a run around, you know, kind of like a bop around thing, you know, run out to the grocery store and come back, go to the corner store with it, something like that. It could work, you know, it's pretty decent. And this one does look completely factory showroom fresh, which is nice to see. Again, these are the little details I tell you guys about that you want to buy a bike from a good home, right? If you are able to, right? You buy it from an owner who is like this person, who's probably a well-to-do, normal adult who has not done anything weird to the bike. It clearly was taken care of. This got good photos. It's washed correctly. Like, this all looks good to me. This all looks clean. I see a slightly older, looks like Japanese commuter car in the back right there. That's how you know. Giga Chad. Big brain person right here. Probably maximizing dollar per value over there. Millionaire next door type of shit. You know what I'm saying? So, this one, $3,000 for the little NK300. It's probably the best one I've seen today, honestly. If the price is decent, you want to pick it up as a beginner bike, you just got to know what you're getting into. You're probably not going to be able to sell it very much. And then just go from there. I think it's a pretty good buy. So boys, that's going to wrap up the show for today on used CF Motos. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you own a used CF Moto? Did you buy a used CF Moto? I always love to hear from the audience and the peanut gallery, as it were. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.